and I've probably got you as well.
Well, Margery, I just read your biography. It was interesting to me.
Oh.
Give it to us one more time. How about that?
Should I do that again?
Yes, I think we got everybody now. So
Okay, I'll do it again. All right, so here we go. I'll start from the top again. Margery is a native of Atlanta, where she majored in journalism at Georgia State University, accounting at Georgia Perimeter College, and business law at the University of Maryland, Overseas Division in Germany. She is a writer and does contract accounting. She is an author of many books. I'll note one, which is the hot number one bestseller on Amazon, called A Juicy, Joyful Life. Margery owns Cherokee Rose Publishing, which she founded to assist indie authors with publishing at little to no cost. She loves the garden and is passionate about classical music and soccer. Before breaking her neck in 1998, which resulted in 3 years of rehabilitation, Margery was director of publications for 3 what's that word, Margery?
Nutraceutical?
Nutraceutical, very good, okay. Nutraceutical companies, and oversaw compliance with the Federal Dietary Supplement Health Education Act. She lectured across the USA and in Canada on health and wellness. She has 2 grown children, 5 grandchildren, 1 great-grandson, and 8 godchildren. With that, Margery, we'll introduce you. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be with y'all. So I'm looking for the little green light so I can bring on a presentation and we can talk about writing genealogies. I don't see the little, there it is. Okay, share screen. Okay. There's the whiteboard. That's not mine. Oh, okay. Let me see. Here we go. All righty. Let's go back to the beginning.
Here you go.
Yep. Okay. Today we're going to talk about writing and publishing our family histories. And y'all feel free to jump in with questions because I'm hoping you're going to have lots of them. So why do we tell our stories? Well, as Elizabeth Hunter said in The Scribe, we're all immortal as long as our stories are told. And if we want part of us to live on, it's really important to tell our stories, and not only our stories, but our ancestors' stories too. Another thing about telling our stories and doing our genealogy, it helps us with our identity and our familial affinities. So what traits in my ancestors appear in my life, and even more importantly to me, and maybe to y'all, are these also apparent in my children? For example, and I'm sorry I have to use so many of my own examples, but I don't have y'all. So, for example, in my family, the book that I was showing y'all earlier, this tome, the 570-page genealogy my cousin wrote, is all about the family starting in Charleston back in the early 1700s. Well, even though most of us weren't born in the Low Country, it's amazing how many people in the family either move to the Low Country or spend as much time there as they can. When my brother was in his late 20s, he moved to South Carolina. He said he'd never move back to Georgia. He was where he belonged. My grandson, the first time he went to Charleston a few years ago, he fell in love with it, and he's ready to move there too. So we look at these geographic locations, and we could say, why does this oddball in the family want to move to Nebraska? Well, maybe it's because we had family out there, and it's part of their genetic history to be in that part of the country. Another way our ancestry affects us is our food preferences. In my family, it's rice. Now, we're all from the Atlanta and Northeast area, but rice is a staple in our family. Guess what? Rice was a staple of Low Country nutrition. It still is. When my son was a little boy, he used to sit down to eat, and if I served potatoes, he'd look around the table and he'd say, Mom, where's the rice? It wasn't a meal to my son if the rice wasn't there. Where did that come from? Well, I started studying Low Country life and genealogy, and I found, oh, it's natural for my son to like rice. It's part of his makeup. Another thing is career choices. My 5 generations great-grandfather was in banking and was a factor, handling exchange of cotton. Now my grandson has a degree in finance and wants to move to South Carolina. My daughter is a CPA, and I do accounting. All of those career choices have been impacted, I think, directly by our ancestry. So that's another reason to study our ancestry, is because it gives us a sense of who we really are. So everyone has a story. People ask me all the time, where do I come up with ideas for my stories? I said, I just live my life. Everybody has a story. There's many stories as there are people to tell them. So you don't need to compare your story to anyone else and say, oh, I don't have anything interesting to write about, because you do once you start looking for it. What's nice is that everybody's story is unique. No 2 stories are the same. And because they're unique, that makes them important. Helen Keller said, when we talk about our stories, there is no king who has not had a slave among his ancestors, and no slave who has not had a king among his. And that is so true. That is so true. We all come from the same source, and we're all related at a higher level. So to say you came from a king or from a slave, it doesn't make any difference, because we ultimately all came from God. I'm sorry to politicize there. Okay, knowledge is understanding. When you have knowledge about your ancestors and your heritage, that gives you more understanding. And in wisdom quotes, I found this neat little quote: understanding is deeper than knowledge. There are many people who know you, but very few who understand you. For example, I understand my grandson so much better now, why he's in finance and why he wants to move to the low country, because it's his heritage. So I understand. I not only know, but I understand. And I think we can use the wisdom of our ancestors in our own lives in a very productive way. The better you know your ancestors, the better you know yourself. And that came from American Genealogy Association. So I think that's so true. And that's why it's so important to research our stories and write them. So now let's talk about actually writing your story. It may look daunting, but I've tried to break it down so it makes sense to y'all. So what we're going to talk about now is what you need to be aware of before you begin. Then we're going to talk about gathering information and pictures, actually composing stories, creating charts, how to format and assemble, and how to publish. Hopefully y'all are coming up with some good stories, and you're going to want to publish them, and I can certainly help you with that. So before you begin, this comes from American Genealogical Association. There are these rules and regulations that they say everybody doing genealogy should follow. And I'm sure y'all are aware of this, so I thought I'd just skip through it really quick. Review periodical literature so you'll know what's available. And I found Donald Lyons Jacobus's Index of Genealogical Periodicals online at Amazon. If you don't have it, you can get it. So you'll know all the various sources where you can do your researches, because there's thousands and thousands of them. American Genealogical Association also says, don't assume your surname means you're related to a family with the same name. My cousin recently chastised me about that, because I was laying claim to an Italian family, and she said, oh, no, that's not right. Well, she's wrong. I know I'm right, but anyway, so document every relationship with factual evidence. They also say to watch your chronology. Do relationships make sense? So if you come across somebody that was 6 years old, and all of a sudden somebody else is attached to a leaf to your ancestry research and says, well, they had a son, well, look and see if the dates jive. Chances are a 6-year-old does not have a son. So chances are a 95-year-old does not have an infant. So be sure you're careful with your dates. Family traditions may not be traditional. Marriages can bring new ethnicities to a line of descent. that can make it more complicated to trace them. But I've got a very dear friend who's from Haiti. She's got one grandmother who is from Ireland, another grandmother who's from China. She's got a grandfather who's from Puerto Rico. Another grandfather is Middle European. I mean, she's got the most complicated family line I've ever seen. And I said, good luck doing your genealogy. You're going to be all over the world. And she is. But it's absolutely fascinating. The last thing they say, don't take claims of noble birth at face value. I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we also came from a king? But when you study some of these kings, you really don't want to be related to them. So know your facts before you brag. The right displayed coat of arms is provable. If y'all have done any genealogy, a lot of genealogy research, you know that coat of arms are very protected. So the same surname does not give you the right to adopt an insignia. So just be aware of that. And who cares about insignia anymore anyway? But I know some people do. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is gathering information. In journalism, we're taught to ask questions. We call it the 5 W's and the H. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, in doing genealogy research, you're not going to be able to answer more than likely all these questions. But if you get this basic information on 4 or 5 of these questions, you're going to have something substantial to write about. So you need to be aware of those are the questions you need to ask. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. The next thing is be sure you keep notes. Now, there's lots of different ways to keep notes. Some people like index cards. Some people like electronic files, which is easy to do. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Excel spreadsheets is also an excellent way to keep up with your notes. All the computers and iPads now have electronic notepads where, you know, you can jot something down. You can also use a manual notebook, which is my preference. I know it sounds old-fashioned, but I've got stacks and stacks of notebooks with all my thoughts and ideas written down. And a tape recorder. You might say, why would you want a tape recorder? I keep a little tape recorder in my car. And if something comes to me, an idea for a story or something, a link I make between 2 people, I just pick up a tape recorder and record it. The reason it's important to write your notes down when you think of them is because they're going to be gone. You may be in the shower thinking about something and have a great idea, and you get out of the shower and you go in the kitchen and you drink your coffee and the idea's gone. I tell people all the time, if you have an idea, write it down right away. It may be a great idea, and you may say, oh, I'll never forget that. That's a super idea. You go out in the yard and take the garbage out, your idea's gone. If you have an idea, I mean, I've even keep a notepad in the nightstand with a pen. I wake up in the middle of the night with an idea, jot it down. So it's real important as you make these connections through the genealogy or thinking about some of the stories, or you have a great storyline, just jot it down so you won't lose it. Next thing is gather pictures. So when I gather pictures, I like to track them all in a spreadsheet. You don't want to write down on the back of a picture who was in the picture, where it was taken, the significant event, the location, who gave you the picture, whatever. Just put a little number on the back of the picture and keep them in numerical order and have this spreadsheet. So I've got my picture number, the date, where it was taken, the location, the event, if there was an event like a marriage, the names, it's either people or the specific house, or like it could be a restaurant or whatever, and the source. It's real important to keep up with your sources because you're going to have to name them when you publish your book. You dare not publish something without proper accreditation of the source. And it's easier to keep up with them as you go than to say, where did I get that? I can't remember who gave me that picture. Who am I going to contact, say if it's okay if I reproduce it? And you may be working on your family genealogy and think, well, it's my family, and somebody in the family gave me this picture. I can reproduce it. Well, we live in a very litigious society, and you just never know, even if they're a close family relationship, they may say, you use that without my permission or without giving me credit, I'm going to sue you. I mean, I've seen it happen. So be sure you document your sources, and this is real easy to do. Just set up this little spreadsheet in Excel, and you've got it. The next thing is the American Genealogical Association suggests that we collect signatures. And I didn't know about this until I was doing some research to put this program together for y'all. But it really makes sense because a good handwriting expert can tell you the personality traits, the psychological attitudes, and the physical attributes of the person writing it. And there again, if you get into collecting signatures, do the same thing. Sign it a number and then keep all the documentation in your Excel spreadsheet. That way you've got it. So we're to section 3, compose stories. So you want to write your stories as time allows. And like I was saying earlier, when you have an idea, just jot it down. So when you have time to 15, 20 minutes to write a story, sit down at your computer and make a story. Now, what I suggest you do, I do this when I'm writing big chapter books. You make a separate electronic file for each story. And you title that file by in a numerical order, then the last name, the first name, and then a date such as a birth. I like to use it for genealogy. I like to use all birth dates, you know, because everybody's been born that you're writing about, so that's going to be pretty accurate. So you want that. For example, number 1 was John Robinson, born 1744, May 10th. And you'll see why we have to do it that way in a minute. And enter this file name on an Excel spreadsheet. So you've got the file, you've got your electronic file with your story, and it's got that data on the file name, and then you've got your spreadsheet. So you see the story number, so there's the story number with the person, the first name, the date of birth. These are the order that the stories were written, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I've got down here in big bold letters, note the formatting dates. I've played around with this quite a bit, and to really get to be able to sort the date properly, it has to be in this format. So you have the year, and then a dash, and then the month, and then the date of birth. And you'll see why in a few minutes. But if it's not in that, you're not going to get a true sort, and you'll understand the reason for doing this in a minute. But so as you write your first story, number 1, they don't have to be in any order. This allows you to write stories as you encounter them. Don't say, oh, this is my great-grandmother, but she comes 3 generations after the one I'm starting. I'm going to hold off on her story. No. If you've got her story in your mind, sit down and write it right then. And clock it in. She's story number 2. Or, well, maybe she's story number 3. She's Felicia Hertel Robinson, born in 1822. You write her story, sign the number. Be sure you keep your numbers in sequential order, and be sure that you put them on this spreadsheet. Okay, when you format your stories, they should all be the same. Every file that you set up for your story should all be the same. Left justification, no full justification, please. All left justification. If you can do it in 12-point Times Roman, that's the best. Now, this presentation, if you look at it, it's called sans serif. There's no serif. There's no curly cues on the letters. But when you write something to be extensively read, like my cousin's book here, you want it to be something like Times New Roman or Georgia or Palatino or something like that. That's actually easier for the eye to read. Don't use any tabs, indents, or centering. I have a really dear friend, and he asked me if I'd format his book for publication for him. This was several years ago. It took me, it was a trilogy, 500 pages. Took me 3 days to clear up his formatting. It was so bad. He had formatting all over the place. Please, no tabs, no dents, indents, no centering. Keep everything left justified. And this is all going to make sense in a few minutes. Single line space. You don't have to get fancy with your spacing, just single line space and double line between paragraphs. And then when you're writing your story, you could put a little text box or a note, picture or graphic goes here. So that later on when you're going to grab that graphic out of your graphics file and put it in there, or your picture, you're going to know the exact right place to put it. So make a note in your story of where the picture or the graphic goes. Has anybody got any questions so far? No questions? Okay. As I said before, your stories do not have to be in chronological order. And the reason they don't have to be in chronological order is you are tracking them all on your nice little spreadsheet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you just, as long as you're tracking them properly and naming your files and putting them on your spreadsheet, you're going to be able to find everything you need. It's all going to make sense. When my cousin went to put his book together, 570 pages, he had probably 400 stories. You have to have a way to keep up with all this data. And Excel is so easy and so much fun. If you all need me to set up spreadsheets for you, I'll be glad to. Okay, be consistent. When you write your story, be consistent about the voice, active or passive. There's a really, really good link on Grammarly about describing what active voice and what passive voice is. So in active voice, you say, the monkey ate the banana. And you're sitting right there and you say, oh, I see the monkey eating the banana. You are part of the action. The monkey's eating the banana. That's active voice. Passive voice is, bananas were eaten happily by the monkey. Is that very interesting? Mm-mm. You're not engaged in it at all. So try to be consistent with active voices. And it's okay also to write in first person. This whole book by my cousin is all in first person, which means I or we or our. Because you're telling the story, so it's okay for you to be like the protagonist and you are telling the story. So you can say our ancestor or we or I. That's perfectly fine in genealogy stories. Write to be concise and not eloquent. Nobody cares how many big flowery words you use. As a matter of fact, it might be a turnoff. You just need to be concise. Let me give you an example. Years ago, I was working on one of my first health books, and I was working with a guy who had a PhD in nutrition, and he kept talking about rainbow foods, and rainbow foods. And I kept saying, I don't understand what you're talking about. How do you want me to write this? He finally said, go get this book by this friend of mine. It's called The Rainbow Diet, and read it, and then you'll understand what I'm trying to say. So I read a whole book, 200 pages, and guess what I got out of it? One short paragraph. Summed the whole book up in one paragraph in my book. Got the message out to my readers about health and nutrition. So I thought, he wrote this whole book and I could summarize it in one paragraph, you know. So you don't have to get flowery, especially if you've got a lot of family members like my cousin with over 1,000 entries, 1,000 people. You don't need to be flowery and eloquent. Just be concise. Just tell the story. In journalism, we call it economy of words. So you want to create charts and graphics. I love graphics. It can absorb a lot of information from looking at a graphic, and we're going to look at one in a minute. So you can make Excel spreadsheets and graphics to also help tell your story. And there again, if you're going to have a lot of graphics or spreadsheets, set up your spreadsheet thing in Excel. Oops, I'm out.
Sounds like we lost Margery.
We all did.
Yeah. I'm going to pause the recording.
Continue?
Yes,
Yeah.
let's do. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if I need to read. Okay, share the screen. Okay, screen share. Share. Okay, we're going to go back to current slide. I apologize. I have no idea.
That's quite all right.
Current slide. Okay, all righty. So we're going to create charts and graphics, and there again, you want to track them all in an Excel spreadsheet, number them with pertinent data, so that you can keep up with them. This is all going to make sense in just a minute. So now we're to the big part, a format and a symbol, and this is where you may need people like me to come in and help you. Sort your spreadsheet so that your stories are in chronological order. For example, you may have written, your first story may have written about Mary Robinson, who had won 1812, but she's not the first in your lineage. Your first story is going to be about John Robinson, who was born in 1744. So what you do is you take your nice little Excel spreadsheet and you highlight all this data and you sort it by date of birth. Now you've got all your stories in chronological order, and you know which story to pull into your manuscript first. So the first one in is going to be John Robinson, number 4. Does that make sense? Do y'all follow me? And you can do all the stuff you've got on John Robinson 4. Then you've got the next person you've got is Sarah Robinson. Her story you wrote number 5. Well, she's coming in second in your big manuscript. One of the benefits of keeping the stories separate is you can add to them as you go. You know where it is. But also it keeps your file from getting too big with Word and some of the other word processing programs. If you start messing around with all this stuff in a huge file and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, it can come what we call corrupted, and that's not usable at all. So you want to save all of this formatting and all of this assembly until you're ready to create your book. So does this y'all understand this about the sort by the date of birth? Does that make sense? So then you want to set up your master file into which you're going to enter all your stories, your charts, and your pictures. You need to select the size. Like Ted's book is a standard 6x9 book, which is standard in the industry. You could go 8x10. If you're not planning to publish it through a publishing house like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, I suggest that you do it in 8.5x11. That will enable you to set the whole thing up and then email it to your family, friends, and other people interested in your ancestry, and they can just print it on their home computer and have a really pretty document. I do workbooks. I've done several workbooks. I just did one on accounting. It's 8.5x11. People want my accounting workbook, I email it to them, they print it. It's real simple. It's real simple. So if you're going to be doing that way, I suggest 8.5x11. Other than that, the best size for a book that's going to be bound and printed is 6x9. So the next thing you need to do, this is critical in your finished manuscript, set the margins. So I suggest that if you're going to publish, you need to go to KDP Publishing, and the address is right there at KDP Publishing, Amazon.com. Set yourself up an account. It's absolutely free. And then you can download the templates that you want. So if you're going to publish a 6x9 book, you download the template for 6x9, and you're pretty much set to go. It's painless, and if you have trouble with it, let me know.
Then Margery, does it adjust for your pictures and everything too? So if it was 8.5x11, would it then adjust to 6:9 if I wanted to automatically?
Well, no, it's not going to automatically. You need to go ahead and reduce it. And that's a good question. That's a good point, because I've got that at the very end. When you scan in pictures, make sure you use a high resolution. Because if you scan a picture in and it's a low resolution, your finished product's going to be pixelated. When it's published, it's going to look like a bunch of little dots. So you want to use a high resolution, and you need to get your picture to the size that you want. So when you put it in Word, you can reduce the size of the picture. You can import an 8.5 by 11 picture and reduce it. You're gonna get a better quality, because your dots are going to be closer together. Does that make sense? So you're going to have, but you don't want to take, say, a 3 by 5 picture and blow it up to 6 by 9. No matter how much resolution you use, it's going to be pixelated. So you need to have your pictures bigger than what you're going to print, or the same size as what you're going to print. But you don't want to take a little picture and blow it up. I mean, I've got some wonderful, teeny tiny little pictures of my grandparents. There's nothing can be done with them, because to blow them up is just pathetic. You just can't see it.
Margery, I didn't get the website, the complete website. I was unable to get that information.
Oh, you know what? I will send this presentation to Chris, and he can send it to y'all, since he's got your email addresses, so you'll have everything.
That would be wonderful.
And I'll also post it on my, I'll make a PDF of it and post it on my Cherokee Rose Publishing Company site too. So since I didn't charge y'all for this, it's fine. I want to use it. So it'll be out there on Cherokee Rose too, so you can get it. We'll get to that in a minute.
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't think y'all were gonna have time to make a lot of notes. So yeah, I share a lot of stuff. I don't charge for it. I love doing this, and I love telling stories and helping people get their stories told. So remember, there's 3 parts to a book. There's what we call the front matter, the body, and the back matter. And one of the reasons it's important to know that is because you use different numbering systems for each of that. So front matter is always Roman numerals. And you don't have headers and footers. You know what? You open a book and you see the header with the little line. It'll have the title of the book at the top. That's called the header. You don't use that in front matter. Front matter does not have headers or footers. It's only got Roman numeral page numbers. Then you've got the body of the book. The body of the book's more complicated to do, because it does have headers and footers, except for on the first page of a chapter. You don't put a header on the first page of a chapter. And there's lots of different ways to set up your headers and footers. Some people want just headers. Some people want all the information in the footer. Some split it. Some put the page number in the footer and the title in the header. So there's lots of different ways to do it. If you've got any problems doing that, let me know. So there's the front matter, the body, and then there's the back matter. And that's, it continues the numbering, the numerical numbering from the body of the book. But there again, your headers and your footers can change. So there's 3 parts to the book. My idea is to help people publish as professional looking documents as they can. Because if you're telling your family story, you want it to look pretty. You want it to be right. You don't want to just put any old thing out there. Hopefully, when y'all put the effort into writing these books and publishing them, it's going to be a beautiful document that's going to last for many, many years and be passed down for generations. So we're going to talk about customizing your front matter. When you open a book, the first thing you see is one of 2 things. It's either a blank page or what's called a half title. And depending on the book I'm doing, I'll either have that blank page or the half title. Half title is the full page with just the title of the book in the middle of the page, called a half title page, like Cotton Factor's Legacy. Then on the flip side of that page is going to be an illustration, if you want it there. If you don't want an illustration there, you don't have to have it. The next page is the title page, which is also a right-hand page. You open the book and it's going to be on your right side. That's where you put the full title, the author, and the publisher. So when I publish books for people, it's going to have Cherokee Rose down at the bottom with my little logo. So it'll have the full title, the author, and the publisher. If you set up a book this way, people are going to open it and say, wow, this is really professional. I can't tell you how many people don't follow these simple rules. On the back page, on the back side, which is going to be on the right left-hand side of the title page, is your copyright page with your ISBN number. Your ISBN number is International Standard Book Number. When you publish, you want to have an ISBN number, and I sell them for $50. Now you can go to Boker and set up a publishing company and buy them yourself and pay $110, $115. They change the price all the time. I buy them in bulk and I sell them for $50. And that way you've got that number. And if you go to Amazon to publish your book, they say, do you have an ISBN number? And you say, yeah. And you type in that number, and guess what it brings up? It brings up your book's been published by Cherokee Rose Publishing, which is my company. So it doesn't look so much like a vanity publication. Does that make sense? So you want your copyright page. Look at any book that's got a copyright, and you'll see how to word it. But you do want to protect your copyright. And then the next page is your dedication, if you have one. So my cousin dedicated this tome to his wife, who put up with him writing it for 25 years. So dedication is to somebody really, and it can only be 1 or 2 sentences if you want. It doesn't have to be long and flowery. Next part of your front matter is epigraph, which is a quotation. If you use an epigraph, 1 page only. Do not put anything else on the page with the epigraph. After that, we have the table of contents. That's going to be probably pretty extensive for genealogy. I'll show you an example of my cousins in a minute. After that is a list of figures. Remember all those pictures and charts and all we talked about? You want those right there at the front so people can readily get to it. If they looking for a picture, they can go through that list. After you get the list of figures and the list of tables and charts, then you want a foreword. And foreword is always written by another person. So it could be somebody inside your family who admires what you've done and wants to say something nice about it. Or it could be from a genealogy expert testifying to the expertise you've put into your publication. But the foreword is always written by an outside person. So here's the table of contents for our book that Ted did. As you can see, it's pretty extensive. Now, this is only the first page, and his book is 570 pages long. This is a very professional way of doing it. See how he's got the main headers are in all caps, and then upper lowercase for the sub-chapters in each chapter, the stories in each chapter. So he did a beautiful job of setting it. Word does this for you. Word will do it. I mean, I don't know which program he used, Word, a publisher. All these programs can do this for you. We're still in front matter. You have your preface. If you want to write a preface, and then you always, more than likely in a genealogy, you're going to have a lot of acknowledgments. You need to acknowledge the people who helped you gather your information. More likely, it's going to be mostly family and family associates, but it could be genealogical associations. Maybe you talked to Mary Sue at American Genealogy and she gave you a lot of help. You would want to acknowledge her. You want to acknowledge everybody. That goes back to our Excel spreadsheets where you're tracking all this stuff. You've got it right there. You know who gave you what. And then you want to do an introduction, why you wrote the book. And it doesn't have to be long and flowery, but that's something that the author writes. You don't ask somebody else to write your introduction. You do it right. After all of that front matter, you probably want to have what's called a second half page, which is just a plain piece of paper, plain page. It's on the right-hand side with the title of the book in it again. Now, note, front matter pages are numbered with Roman numerals, and they do not have headers and footers. It's real, and in your word processing program, that's real easy to set up. The next thing is is the body of the book, and that's the easy part. So you can, if you're doing it in sections or parts, you would want a part or a section opening page. For example, say you've decided to break your book down by generations. So you're going to say the 5th generation, and everybody that you write about in that's your 5th generation. Ted didn't do that, and it's fine. You don't need to section it off if you don't want to, but it might make sense to you if you do. And if you do have different sections, you need a section opening page. Then you want your chapter opening page. Be aware, chapters always begin on the right-hand side of the book. So if you're looking at the book, it's going to be on this side with an odd number page. Always, always. If you start doing your chapters opening on the left-hand side, it's not going to be professional. I encourage you just to look at a number of books you got laying around your house and see how they're laid out, and you'll see why this makes sense to do it this way. So you want your chapter opening page. Then you want after the next part of the body is the epilogue or your conclusions that you write. And then you could have an afterword, which is also not written like the foreword. It's not written by the author. The afterword is somebody says, wow, I've read this book and it's really great. You know, she put a lot of work into it and you need to read it or whatever. And then the conclusion, which is concluding ideas and concepts. More than likely with a genealogy, you don't really need that. That's more for a nonfiction book. You would never see it in a fiction book. So, of course, we're writing nonfiction, but genealogies don't really conclusion. I mean, the stories that you're telling, you know, you could write a quick conclusion, you know, hope you found this interesting, how to get in touch with me if you want more information, whatever. That could be a conclusion. Then, now to the back matter. So, back matter, no headers or footers, but you can have the numbering just carries on from the body of the book. So if your last story in your book ended on page 200, your postscript's going to start on page 201. Just continue the numbering on. So you have your postscript, which is, oh, by the way, you might want to know this. You know, P.S., whatever. Appendix or addendum. You might have some more charts and all, some data that you collected that you couldn't fit into the body of the text anywhere, but you don't want to throw it away, so you just stick it in an addendum or an appendix. I was working on a health book with a doctor friend of mine, Dr. Janice Andrews, a few years ago, and she kept sending me all this stuff on the brain, and we were writing a book called You Don't Have to Be Sick, Healthy Eating is Good Medicine. Well, Dr. J, that's my pet name for her, kept selling me all this stuff in the brain. I said, Dr. J, it's not fitting in anywhere. It's not fitting anywhere. She said, well, I want to do all this stuff on the brain. She's a psychiatrist. Guess what we did? We put an appendix all about what she wanted to write about the brain. So that's what the appendix is for. Other stuff that you collected, information that's interesting, that may not have fit into the body anywhere. If you're doing a genealogy, it's a good idea to have a chronology, just a brief summary of the main events. You know, John Robinson came to the country, such and such, da 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 da. Just a chronology, and then any notes you might want to include. There again, notes could be different from the appendix or the addendum. Might be some things in a glossary. If a glossary is pertinent, if you think more than likely it's not. Hopefully, anybody reading an ancestry book is gonna know what you're writing about, but if you've used some big words, you might want to have a glossary. Back matter continues. See how big the back matter and the front matter are? The bibliography. Go back to your Excel spreadsheets where you kept all your sources and give them all credit in your bibliography. It can save you headaches down the road. So you want to list all your sources, anything you've used, you've noticed in this presentation. Every time I've used a source, I've given them credit, I've quoted them. So it's real important when you do a book and you print book to list all those items in the bibliography. The next is list of contributors. You know, Cousin Sue gave you a picture of the old farmhouse, acknowledge her in that. The list of contributors, it's kind of, it's a duplicate of the acknowledgements at the front, but this is just a list. Okay, it's not written out in prose. Your index. Now with all the new publishing programs like Word and all, it's very, very easy to do your index. It's so easy. There's a method, once you figure out how to do it, it's just a breeze, and you will be amazed at the extent of your index once you do it. Errata, if applicable, hopefully it's not. Errata is for when the publisher says, oops, maybe we should have done such and such, or such and such was deliberately excluded from this book, or whatever. Errata comes from your publisher. If it's me, I hope there's not going to be any errata. The colophon is also information from your publisher. That simply describes the day the book was published, the typeface used, and any other things germane to the actual publishing of the book. You know, who designed the cover, who designed the book. You know, a lot of people pay big money to have books designed. So that is on the page called a colophon. So here is an excerpt from my cousin Ted's book. And you can see it, there's a number 1, refers to 101st Airborne. So he's got it all broken down by sections. There's a whole bunch of items that start with 6, so he's got the 60 there. And then it starts with the A's. You can see all the different A's going down. It goes all the way through. I think his index is about 5 or 6 pages long. It's pretty extensive for a 570-page book. That's a sample of an index. You can do it in 2 columns, and it's really easy to do. Word indexing system will set up in 2 columns if you tell it to. Takes up less space when you're printing. So that's the book. That's our 570 pages story of my mom's family's history from Charleston, South Carolina. It's beautifully bound. Now, if you can write a book and send it to a bindery, you would have to have somebody publish it. If you publish on Amazon, it's always soft cover, but the covers are pretty substantial. I mean, it's not paper, you know, it's substantial, especially if you do the one that's coated. It's got a slip cover. They hold up pretty well. I've seen them printed 300 or 400 pages, and they do just fine. So you can do a 6x9 book on Amazon. Won't cost you anything until you buy it, but it won't cost you anything to publish it, except the $50 for your ISBN number that you're gonna buy from me, if you want it. Otherwise, you can get a free one from Amazon. The difference, I want you to understand the ISBN numbers. When somebody buys an ISBN number from me, even if I don't set it up, it's got Cherokee Rose Publishing attached to it. As soon as that book is published live on Amazon, I go into my Boca account and I record that book, and that automatically gets that book on every booksellers list in the United States. So you could walk into, you know, Joe's Little Bookshop on the corner of Main Street in Mableton, Georgia, and you could go in there and say, I've got this ISBN number. Will you order this book for me? Yes, Joe can order that book for you. So that's the difference. If you just publish with Amazon, they're not going to do that for you. They have expanded distribution, and so other booksellers can print it, but it's just not quite as efficient. And that way you're not sure you're getting all your royalties. But the nice thing about publishing on Amazon is royalties are paid monthly. You're not every 6 months the way big publishing houses do. So if you've got a substantial book and you got a lot of people going online buying it, you know, you can make a nice chunk of change. The other thing about it is, after you publish your book with Amazon, and it's listed with all the other booksellers like Barnes & Noble or whoever, Borders, well, they're not around anymore, but you can order copies for your own use. So I published a 101-page accounting manual not too long ago, and guess how much it cost me to order those to give to my clients? $3.20. I could not take my manuscript to Kinko's and have them reproduce that book with that cover for $3.20. It probably cost me $10 or $12. So it's a fabulous service that Amazon has. Of course, they make their money when you publish your book and you sell it, which of course you have to do. It has to be listed. But it's really fun to open up Amazon, go to their book section, type in the title of your book, and there is your book. And you can tell all your friends and all your family, oh, my book's published on Amazon. You can go get it. And then if you bought Your Honor's Being Known for Me and I've registered with Boca, then you can go to Barnes & Noble. Oh, there's Chris' book on Barnes & Noble. Wow, this is neat. It's really fun. It's really fun to do. So I highly encourage y'all to really publish. Okay. We were talking about graphs. This is a graph of a plantation. So see all the data that's in here? You can explain all that, but your eye takes in what happened in 1850, 1860, and 1870. Graphs can tell a story very easily. This is a page from the book. And I picked this particular page to show you. So you see the header, The Cotton Factor's Legacy, page 319. I picked this one, Mary Ellison Robinson. That's my twin sister's namesake. And so you can see something about how he wrote it. At the beginning, it's just uninteresting. So-and-so was born and married such and such. But he's got lots. Now, this is some of the houses. These tie back to the pictures we were looking at in our spreadsheet earlier. This is a story in the book about my mom. And she was born in New York to these two parents from South Carolina. She graduated in college in New York and was working for Montag's, which is a stationery company. She was sent to Atlanta to do the commemorative stationery for Gone with the Wind. And she fell in love with Atlanta and didn't want to leave. There again, Southern heritage. And she ultimately became a medical artist, medical and scientific illustrator for the CDC. I'm sure you all have heard a lot about CDC recently. This is a typical little story that would be in a book. And it's kind of interesting how she graduated and found a position and she came to Atlanta. So that's just one of hundreds and hundreds of stories that you've heard. This is a picture of the old farmhouse in South Carolina. This was made about 1940. It's interesting to look at the little lady. I mean, you can kind of see her stockings. Remember how they used to wear stockings rolled up around their ankles? I can remember my grandmother used to do that. So that's old place in South Carolina. And I thought it was important for Ted to have that in the book because, you know, it shows what the farmhouse looked like when he and I were children. I mean, I was born in 1944, so, you know, this picture was made not too long before I was born. And when that first time I'm with you, that's exactly what it looked like. Oh, what's going on with I can't get to the, okay. Well, I went too far. What's going on here? Oh, we're screen sharing. What happened to my video? I only had a couple more things to show. Okay, let me go back. Sorry about that. Technology. Can't live with it, can't live without it. Okay, where did it go? One page. Okay, this is the house today. It was bought in the late 1990s by a man who totally restored it using all the wood and stuff he found laying around the property. I have not been in it yet, but my cousin Ted's been in it, and he said it looks like something out of Better Homes and Gardens. So a lot of times we think we've lost our family home, and all of a sudden we find out, oh, wow, it may not be in the family anymore, but somebody still loves it and is cherishing it. This house is over 200 years old. Okay. So honor your ancestors by telling their stories, and they will live forever. And I think it's real important to remember all these good things about people. This lady was a Bonapartist, and she fled France during the Revolution and came to the United States. Part of my heritage. So now we're to the postscript. We're about to the end of the presentation. I hope I haven't bored y'all. I want to remind you to scan this is just miscellaneous things that I thought about. This is typical postscript. Scan your pictures in high resolution. We talked about that earlier. You do not want a pixelated picture. Always keep your original Word doc file. Lady called me the other day and she wants me to publish her book. And I said, well, send me your file. And she sent me a PDF. Well, it's not formatted properly. And I said, well, I can't publish this. The formatting is not proper. We need to work on the formatting. And she said, well, can I pay you to do it? I said, sure. I said, send me your Word file. Guess what? She wrote her book, about 300 pages, saved it as a PDF, and then destroyed the Word file. Don't ever, ever, ever destroy your first file. Keep it forever. I've got books I wrote 25 years ago. I've still got the originals. Nobody can ever accuse me of plagiarism because I've got the original documents that they came from. So don't ever destroy your Word file. Keep it forever. Or Publisher if you decide to write in Publisher or one of the Apple programs. Register your copyright as soon as you get your book done. You don't have to have it completely done, but you have to have a substantial amount of it done. Register online at www.copyright.gov. Now, please watch out for scammers. There are all sorts of people out there scamming. You go online to the Copyright Office, and all of a sudden, you're going to be getting dozens of emails from people saying, you need a copyright? We'll do your copyright. Pay us $125. Oh, and by the way, the copyright fee is $125. So you owe me $250 to do it. Well, guess what? You can go online and do it yourself for $125. The rate may have gone up. They're always changing it. But don't pay anybody to do something you can do yourself in 5 minutes online. The scammers are out there. The scammers are out there. We talked about page numbering. Even numbers always on the left, odd numbers always on the right. Chapters always open on an odd page, which means they're on the right. Be alert. Do not use a vanity press for publishing your work. I guarantee you, you go online and you Google publishing, you're going to be inundated, just like you are with the copyright scammers. Companies, vanity presses are going to want to publish your book. We can help you. Pay me $4,000 and I'll publish your book for you. I'm working with a lady right now. She spent $4,000 and she has no marketing. She's got a marginal book. It was very, very poorly produced. And $4,000 down the drain. You know how much advertising she could have bought on Facebook for $4,000? She could have been a bestseller. Instead, she's got nothing because these people scammed her. That's why I started Cherokee Rose. I got so sick of all the, pardon the French, crap going on in the publishing industry. I said, somebody's got to save these people that want to publish their nice little books that are getting scammed. Makes me mad. So please don't get scammed. Don't use a vanity press. Just call me. I'm free. I'm free. So here's my information, Margery Phelps. My home phone number. You can reach me on the cell, but I prefer my home phone number because I'm not a cell phone person. You can send me a text. You can get my text, my cell phone number off I'll put it on my website for y'all. But I prefer my landline. I've had a broken neck. It's real hard for me to hold a phone and talk for a long time. So bear with my infirmities. Cherokee Rose Publishing, and you can check out our website and see what we do. Anybody that publishes on Cherokee Rose Publishing, I will put your picture up, a little bio about you, and a link to your book on Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything except paying me for the ISBN number. I just do it because I love doing it. So you can see I've got a few people up there now, and I'm working on a few more. So let me know what y'all's questions are, and I hope y'all found this useful and got some good information about publishing all those wonderful family stories.
Margery, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a collection of videos or audios or stories that were written by aunts and uncles and cousins. And
Uh-huh.
if I were to put those to paper to be consistent, should I make them all passive or all present tense writing as you suggest? Or make them all present tense as you suggest? What's the best?
I like active voice. I always tell people active voice is so much easier to read and it engages the writer. One of my pet peeves is a whole bunch of best-selling novelists out right now that write in third person perfect. In other words, yesterday she almost went to the store and she stumbled and hurt her foot. I mean, how interesting is that? You know, if you write in past perfect, you're just going to lose people. Present voice and active voice is always so much more engaging. You know, I'm going to the store. It's much more engaging than I went to the store yesterday. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
So if you can, you know, there may be instances where you have to use like a backflash to do something, and that's okay. That's okay. But if it's a genealogy book, is that what it is? It's all genealogy related?
Yeah, just stories of trips they took or something that are nice stories to include.
Yeah.
One's life.
Yeah. They're much more engaging if they're in active voice. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
I was thinking about using Word to write my family history. Actually, I've used it, but I've put each chapter, so to speak, in a separate file.
Right.
Because I don't know how to use Word and bring it all together. Is there a how-to book or something? Because won't Word produce your table of contents and your indexes?
It will. And you can, are you going to actually publish the book, or are you just going to?
No, this is for my and my cousin's edification.
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, you could bring all those different stories into one Word document, and then there's a table of contents function in Word. There's also an indexing function, which is useful.
Okay.
If you want to put up together a really pretty document where you can print back page and front page, you can go on to KDP and download their template for what size you got to publish it in 8.5 by 11. I take it, right?
Right. Just something simple, and although I did want to produce a table of contents to get to each family surname.
Right.
Yeah, Word index, but I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Oh, in Word?
Right.
Oh, okay. Did you look at their tutorial?
I did, and I didn't see anything about that, but I'll look again.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because there is a tutorial on the table of contents, just like there is on the index.
Okay.
And both those can work. So
really just Google Word.
Yeah, open up your Word program. Well, open up your Word program.
Oh, and go
do a
help.
search and find and find words thing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Because you open up Google and do that search, you're going to get all sorts of emails.
Yeah, which is why I haven't.
You know.
That much with it.
Now, if anybody, while we're on this subject of spammers and people taking us back to the barn and beating us with all their ideas, if you publish a really nice book and you want to do a website for it, I guarantee you, when you go, I like GoDaddy personally, but Wix is another good one. When you go onto Wix or GoDaddy and do a search to see if the name you want to use is available, if it is, grab it right then. I had a friend years ago who was went to GoDaddy, was thinking about starting a restaurant, and she went to GoDaddy to look and see if that restaurant name was used. And I told her, I said, you better grab that name right away. Guess what? She didn't register it right then. Somebody else bought it and wanted to sell it to her for $1,000. URLs exclusive, only one in the world. She didn't grab it. She had to name a restaurant something else because she couldn't get the website with that restaurant name she wanted. So you all please be careful.
Margery,
Yes.
I have a question. My question is, I'm still, I don't think I'm still clear on the spreadsheet, how to set it up where, you know, you got the numbers and the source and this and that. And then when you're ready to add more information about, let's say, Tim, where do I type it in that it will just go into under Tim's number? Or do you just say, if Tim is number 1, then I would just type number 1 somewhere and then insert it? I'm not sure how that goes.
Yeah. Well, are you good at, do you have Excel on your computer?
I do.
Oh, okay. Well.
And
Uh-huh.
And I know how you sort.
Right.
So I'm just going to go to whatever his number is and just start typing.
Yeah. Say you've written 5 stories. Then they're laying there, and you've got 5 files open on your computer. You just pick up one of them and put a number 1 on it, and then title it with that number 1, and then put all the data in your Excel spreadsheet. So in other words, your electronic file title should be the same numerical number as what you put in your, title. The file should be the same as what's on the Excel spreadsheet. I think
I understand that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I did. Because I'm comfortable with Excel.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
I'm just trying to
you want
process
the information you put on your Excel spreadsheet to match the file.
The number of the person.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Or the story. I call it the story number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I have lots of stories about individual family members, but they are all in Family Tree Maker. And I'm comfortable going back and just copying them and putting them in Word or into the Excel spreadsheet.
Right.
And that will work.
Oh, so you've already got those stories written, but they're just not.
I got a lot of stories there. For a while, I was able to write a story about each person per day, a night. You know.
Oh, wonderful!
But I've stopped and to focus on something else. But nevertheless, I still have those.
Well, that should be easy to copy and paste and put it in Word and then turn it into a book for your family.
But I've got to change the what is it? I have to change the tense to an active tense.
Well, I mean, if you already put a lot of writing work into it, you might not want to go to that effort. That might involve a lot of rewriting.
You don't know me. Oh, I might want to.
Oh.
I think for consistency, to be consistent, this would be good.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to my elderly cousin. I got a 92-year-old cousin who spent 3 months editing Ted's book, and one of her complaints about it was that he used different voice. And she said it just drove me crazy. She said he had to do a lot of rewriting because he kept changing voice and changing person, and he would go from past tense in active voice to first person, present tense, active voice. And she said it was all over the place. So he ended up with a pretty good project. But like I say, he was over 20 years in doing it.
Okay. But your presentation was excellent. Just excellent.
Oh, thank you. Y'all don't hesitate to call me.
I won't.
If you need any information, I'm here to help you. I do not make my living off of publications. I do it off of my accounting. I tell people all the time I have to do bookkeeping to pay for my addiction to writing.
I don't think writing is easy.
Oh, it's a lot more. Y'all can see from the publication side of it what it takes just to publish a book. I mean, that was the subject matter today, was writing and publishing. There's a lot more to it than people realize.
Now, when we use the template on Amazon, I think it was Amazon, we can download that template? Because I understand that once you publish a book with Amazon or somebody like that, they own the rights of the book.
No,
Okay, would you clarify?
no, you don't. Okay, you go to KDP. It used to be called CreateSpace. Amazon's publishing arm used to be called CreateSpace. They changed it about a year or so ago to KDP Publishing. It does all the exact same stuff. It's got all the same tutorials. It's fabulous.
Okay.
You can publish for free. The thing is, when you log on and set up your account, they'll ask you if you've got an ISBN number. If you don't, and you use their ISBN number,
Then they own it.
then right. Now you still get your royalties, and they will still distribute it, but it's always going to be associated as an indie publication done on Amazon.
Well, I'm thinking that to download the templates is just for a map, so to speak, to know how to put what, where, when, and how. Am I wrong or am I right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. The template's all formatted with headers and footers and things like that, and you can basically just drop your information into it. A little bit more technical than that, but the main thing about using an Amazon template, it's going to have all your margins set properly. So, for example, you might want a half-inch margin at the top and bottom of the page and a half-inch on the outside edge, but the inside edge is going to be an inch. And I try to explain to people all this time, look at the binding. When the book is bound, open and closing, you've got to have a bigger margin on the inside. That's called a mirror margin. A lot of people don't set up mirror margins. I've been working with this poor fella for months trying to get him to realize he's got to have mirror margins. He refuses to do it. And I said, well, I'm not selling you an ISBN number. I'm really, really picky. I want to help people, but I do not want the name of Cherokee Rose on anything that's not professional looking. And that's why I do spend so much of my free time formatting books properly. So I'll be glad to help you with it if you need help with it. But those mirror margins are crucial to your finished printing.
Well, I think what I'm looking for is a template so that something I can see on hand. I don't want to put my stories in that electronic template. I want a hard copy template so I'll know how to.
Oh, well, no, you will download that template, and it'll be a Word template.
Okay.
It'll be just like using Word.
Okay.
It'll be but it'll be all set up, with all the parameters there. Like you can publish 8.5 by 11, you said, or 6 by 9.
I didn't say. I don't know at this point. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, there again, it depends on what your distribution is going to be. If it's just going to be to a few family members and you want to be able to email it to them so they can print it, you would definitely want to go 8.5 by 11. But if it's something that you want them to go online to Amazon and buy, then you'd want to do 6 by 9.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
Okay. Well, I'm here to help y'all if anybody needs any help.
Margery, I have one question for you.
Sure.
I was given diaries that my great aunt had, and they are in 17 different notebooks.
Wow.
And I'm trying to transcribe those. It's handwritten in fountain pen ink, a lot of it, some of it smudged. And so I'm trying to translate it first into a Word document in order to put it together and maybe publish it for my family.
How wonderful.
Any suggestions on how I go about transcribing all these different notebooks? I mean, it's just a very tedious task right now.
Yeah. There are some programs, like PDF has a program where it'll convert a PDF file to a Word document file. You might play around with it. The cost is not that much, maybe $40, $50. It's like having a subscription to Word or whatever. You might try that. I'll try to see if I can't find a handwritten to Word program for you.
Okay.
Now Let me write myself another handwritten.
So with that, I would have to at least scan it first to get it to a PDF file, and then maybe there's a conversion program to,
Yeah, there may be. I mean, there's so much stuff out there now.
right.
I just haven't had the occasion. I do PDF conversions to Word all the time.
Right.
I mean, I did a 25-page document for a client the other day. He sent me the PDF file and wanted me to retype it. I said, I'm not going to spend 2 days retyping all this stuff. I opened up my converter, in 2 hours I was done.
Right.
There's always a lot of cleanup.
Yes.
And
I know there will be here too, because there are a lot of family names or acquaintance names that I'm going to have to correct as I go through. So any suggestions would be helpful.
Okay, I'll see what I can find for you and
Thank
see
you.
if PDF would do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Anybody?
Marjorie,
Yes.
I would like that too if you find that for Doug, because I have diaries like that I would like to transcribe easily.
Oh, okay. Do y'all
Yeah.
have my email address?
No.
Y'all can all email me. I should have put it on this. It's my name, Margery Phelps, MargeryPhelps @msn.com. It's real simple. Margery Phelps @msn.com. Y'all can email me with any request or any information that you need.
Yes, everyone has received Margery's biography that I read. And in that biography, it does list her contact information.
Yeah,
Great.
it's on the.
Thanks,
And
Chris.
my email address is on Cherokee Rose, or you can always contact me through Cherokee Rose. I'll have a website too, MargeryPhelps.com. So MargeryPhelps.com or CherokeeRosePublishing.com.
Margery Phelps what was that email? What was your website?
It's MargeryPhelps.com, just my name,
I thought that's what I
MargeryPhelps.com,
heard.
or
Okay.
CherokeeRosePublishing.com. Be glad to help y'all.
So
That's
you
my
have
mission.
you have two websites.
Actually, I've got 3. I've got one for one of my books. I used to have 11.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, I had 11 websites. I had one for each one of my books. And I thought I can't keep up with this. 11 websites working full time. It was just too much. So I condensed them. So now I've got Cherokee Rose Publishing, MargeryPhelps.com, and FindingMargaret.com, which is my narrative nonfiction book.
And you're Margery Phelps at MSN. MSN.com.
Yeah, MSN.com. I've had the same email address ever since email first came out.
I would have too if they didn't hack me.
Oh dear. Oh. Any
I
more
don't like
questions?
change.
Any more questions? I hope y'all learned something today about writing and publishing.
It was great.
It was great. I
Yes,
love it.
thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you, Chris, for finding her.
Yes, thank you, Chris, for finding her.
Well, that was Martha Brown. Margery did ask me, how did I find out about her? And Martha Brown had heard about Margery or seen a presentation by Margery and said, we need to invite her to speak to us. So
I'm just wondering if I knew Martha through the Jennings. Do y'all know the Jennings? They used to live in Conyers. They're both deceased now. There was a movie made about them called At First Sight, and it starred Val Kilmer and Mira Sorvino, and it was situated in New York, although part of it was in Atlanta. It was the story of a blind man who had surgery to reconstruct to give him sight, and what he went through. It's a real interesting story. And they lived in Conyers, and I was hired to write the true story. So it's At First Sight, the story behind the MGM motion picture. And they lived in Conyers. Yeah. So, and I did a presentation out there at Barbara's church. So maybe that's when I met Martha.
Maybe so, yeah. Maybe that's where she met. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any more questions? We all know how to get in touch with me. I hope I hear from you.
Oh, don't worry, you'll
I'm
hear
here to
from us.
help. Don't hesitate. I'm usually up till 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'll take phone calls till 1 o'clock in the morning.
God.
Thank you so much.
Well, you're quite welcome. I love being with y'all. Love being with y'all. And if I can be of any service or help y'all in any way, don't hesitate to let me know.
Okay.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Marjorie.
And I will email this presentation to Chris so that he can get it out to y'all.
Yes.
Great.
Yes, very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Chris, don't leave.
I won't leave. Doug, can you turn control over to me so I can talk to?
Stop
I'm
the
gonna-
recording, Doug.
I'm going to stop the recording.